The Hounds of Tindalos by Frank Belknap Long was originally published in Weird Tales in March 1929. "I'm glad you came," said Chalmers. He was sitting by the window, and his face was very pale. 2 tall candles guttered at his elbow and cast a sickly amber light over his long nose and slightly receding chin. Chalmers would have nothing modern about his apartment. He had the soul of a medieval ascetic, and he preferred illuminated manuscripts to automobiles and leering stone gargoyles to radios and adding machines. So he was kind of like me in a way. Well, in a couple ways. As I crossed the room to the settee he had cleared for me, I glanced at his desk and was surprised to discover that he had been studying the mathematical formula of a celebrated contemporary physicist, and that he had covered many sheets of thin yellow paper with curious geometric designs. "Einstein and John Dee are strange bedfellows," I said as my gaze wandered from his mathematical charts to the 60 or 70 quaint books that comprised his strange little library. Plotinus and Emmanuel Scopulus, St. Thomas Aquinas, and Franicle de Bessy stood elbow to elbow in the somber ebony bookcase, and chairs, table, and desk were littered with pamphlets about medieval sorcery and witchcraft and black magic and all the valiant, glamorous things that the modern world has repudiated. Chalmers smiled engagingly and passed me a Russian cigarette on a curiously carved tray. "We are just discovering now," he said, "that the old alchemists and sorcerers were 2/3 right, and that your modern biologist and materialist is 9/10 wrong. You have always scoffed at modern science," I said, a little impatiently. "Only a scientific dogmatism," he replied. "I have always been a rebel, a champion of originality and lost causes. That is why I have chosen to repudiate the conclusions of contemporary biologists." "And Einstein?" I asked. "A priest of transcendental mathematics," he murmured reverently. "A profound mystic and explorer of the great suspected. Then, you do not entirely despise science?" "Of course not," he affirmed. "I merely distrust the scientific positivism of the past 50 years, the positivism of Haeckel and Darwin, and of Mr. Bertrand Russell. I believe that biology has failed pitifully to explain the mystery of man's origin and destiny." "Give them time," I retorted. Chalmers' eyes glowed. "My friend," he murmured, "your pun is sublime. Give them time. That is precisely what I would do. But your modern biologist scoffs at time. He has the key but refuses to use it. What do we know of time, really? Einstein believes that it is relative, that it can be interpreted in terms of space, of curved space. But must we stop there when mathematics fails us? Can we not advance by insight?" "You are treading on dangerous ground," I replied. "That is a pitfall that your true investigator avoids. That is why modern science has advanced so slowly. It accepts nothing that it cannot demonstrate. But I would take hashish, opium, all manner of drugs. I would emulate the sages of the East, and then perhaps I would apprehend." "What? The fourth dimension? Theosophical rubbish? Perhaps. But I believe that drugs expand human consciousness." William James agreed with me, and I have discovered a new one. "A new drug?" "And it was used centuries ago by Chinese alchemists but is virtually unknown in the West. Its occult properties are amazing. With its aid and the aid of my mathematical knowledge, I believe that I can go back through time. Altered States is a pretty good movie. I was thinking maybe he was going to reference Aleister Crowley at some point, but I do not understand. Time is merely our imperfect perception of a new dimension of space. Time and motion are both illusions. Everything that has existed from the beginning of the world exists now. Events that occurred centuries ago on this planet continue to exist in another dimension of space. Events that will occur centuries from now exist already. We cannot perceive their existence because we cannot enter the dimension of space that contains them. Human beings, as we know them, are merely fractions, infinitesimally small fractions of one enormous whole. Every human being is linked with all the life that has preceded him on this planet. All of his ancestors are parts of him. Only time separates him from his forebears, and time is an illusion and does not exist. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think I understand, I murmured. It will be sufficient for my purpose if you can form a vague idea of what I wish to achieve. I wish to strip from my eyes the veils of illusion that time has thrown over them, and see the beginning and the end. And you think this new drug will help you? I'm sure that it will, and I want you to help me. I intend to take the drug immediately. I cannot wait. I must see. His eyes glittered strangely. I am going back through time. He rose and strode to the mantel. When he faced me again, he was holding a small square box in the palm of his hand. I have here 5 pellets of the drug Liao. It was used by the Chinese philosopher Lao Tse, and while under its influence, he visioned Tao. Tao is the most mysterious force in the world. It surrounds and pervades all things. It contains the visible universe and everything that we call reality. He who apprehends the mysteries of Tao sees clearly all that was and will be. Rubbish, I retorted. Tao resembles a great animal, recumbent, motionless, containing in its enormous body all the worlds of our universe, the past, the present, and the future. We see portions of this great monster through the slit, which we call time. With the aid of this drug, I shall enlarge the slit. I shall behold the great figure of life, the great recumbent beast in its entirety. And what do you wish me to do? Watch, my friend. Watch and take notes. If I go back too far, you must recall me to reality. You can recall me by shaking me violently. If I appear to be suffering acute physical pain, you must recall me at once. Chalmers, I said, I wish you wouldn't make this experiment. You are taking dreadful risks. I don't believe that there's any fourth dimension, and I emphatically do not believe in Tao. And I don't approve of your experimenting with unknown drugs. Well, if you refer to it as a beast that you can only see with drugs, I totally get that. But remember what happened with Jimi Hendrix and many others. That you get so high on drugs that you never want to come back. Including, Axl Rose and Slash. But Axl Rose and Slash are still alive. They did a show up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know if they've done a show since that, but I heard of over in... I know the properties of this drug, he replied. I know precisely how it affects the human animal, and I know its dangers. The risk does not reside in the drug itself. My only fear is that I become lost in time. You see, I shall assist the drug. Before I swallow this pellet, I shall give you my undivided attention to the geometric, algebraic symbols that I have traced on this paper. He raised the mathematical chart that rested on his knee. I shall prepare from my mind an excursion into time. I shall approach the fourth dimension with my conscious mind before I take the drug which will enable me to exercise occult powers of perception. I don't know how long I pause there. If there's a dog on the property that's not ours, Before I enter the dream world of the Eastern mystic, I shall acquire all of the mathematical help that modern science can offer. This mathematical knowledge, this conscious approach to an actual apprehension of the fourth dimension of time, will supplement the work of the drug. The drug will open up suspendous new vistas. That mathematical preparation will enable me to grasp them intellectually. I have often grasped the fourth dimension in dreams, emotionally, intuitively, but I have never been able to recall in waking life the occult splendors that were momentarily revealed to me. But with your aid, I believe that I can recall them. I will take down everything that I say while I am under the influence of the drug, no matter how strange or incoherent my speech may become. You will omit nothing. When I awake, I may be able to supply the key to whatever is mysterious or incredible. I am not sure that I shall succeed, but if I do succeed, his eyes were strangely luminous. Time will exist for me no longer. He sat down abruptly. I shall make the experiment at once. Please stand over there by the window and watch. Have you a fountain pen? I nodded gloomily and removed a pale green waterman from my upper vest pocket. And a pad, Frank? I groaned and produced a memorandum book. I emphatically disapprove of this experiment, I muttered. You're taking a frightful risk. Don't be an asinine old woman, he admonished. Nothing that you can say will induce me to stop now. I entreat you to remain silent while I study these charts. He raised the charts and studied them intently. I watched the clock on the mantel as it ticked out the seconds, and a curious dread clutched at my heart so that I choked. Suddenly the clock stopped ticking, and exactly at the moment Chalmers swallowed the drug. I rose quickly and moved toward him, but his eyes implored me not to interfere. The clock has stopped, he murmured. The forces that control it approve of my experiment. Time stopped, and I swallowed the drug. I pray God that I shall not lose my way. He closed his eyes and leaned back on the sofa. All the blood left his face, and he was breathing heavily. It was clear that the drug was acting with extraordinary rapidity. It's beginning to get dark, he murmured. Right that. It's beginning to get dark, and the familiar objects in the room are fading out. I can discern them vaguely through my eyelids, but they are fading swiftly. I shook my pen to make the ink come, and wrote rapidly in shorthand as he continued to dictate. I am leaving the room. The walls are vanishing, and I can no longer see any of the familiar objects. Your face, though, is still visible to me. I hope that you are writing. I think that I am about to make a great leap. A leap through space, or perhaps it is through time that I shall make the leap. I cannot tell. Everything is dark, indistinct. He sat for a while, silent, with his head sunk open upon his breast, and then suddenly he stiffened and his eyelids fluttered open. God in heaven, he cried, I see. He knew he was straining forward in his chair, staring at the opposite wall, but I knew that he was looking beyond the wall, and that the objects in the room no longer existed for him. Chalmers, I cried, Chalmers, shall I wake you?